Thank you for your patience, and we hope you enjoy the event.
Welcome, everybody. This is, I'm Joyce Hayden. I'm a former professor at Westfield State University, and this is my fourth, I think, presentation here at Mass Poetry Festival. So we're really excited that you're here. And my cohort, Beverly, will introduce herself.
Hi, everybody. I'm Beverly Army Williams. I teach writing at Westfield State University and am a fiction writer and a poet. And I'm just so excited to be here today with you. And I'm looking forward to our workshops in person in May. So we're going to dig right in. I'm going to share my screen and we will get started. Okay. So what is it about the number 3? As far back as Pythagoras, if not even further, the number 3 has been considered the perfect number, the number of harmony, the number of wisdom, the number of understanding. We see 3 at work in many, many ways, and I'm going to just go over a few triads that are common in our worldviews. And I'd love for you to be thinking about the triads that you think about and maybe share those in the chat as we go along. So we've got the sun, the moon, the earth. We've got sky, earth, underground. We see 3 at work in religious context. So God, man, ghost, or spirit. Maiden, mother, crone. And we see it in our own lives. Childhood, adulthood, old age. Mind, body, spirit. And of course, we see it in story and the ways we tell stories. The beginning, the middle, the end. And I love to think about 3s in fairy tales. So we can think about 3 days to guess Rumpelstiltskin's name. Or a genie might offer 3 wishes. Or Cinderella having 3 nights at the ball. I'm going to turn this over to Joyce, and she's going to talk a little bit about triptych history.
Okay, thank you. So triptychs refer to art forms that are told or presented in 3 sections. The origins of triptychs are in visual art that were made particularly popular in the Middle Ages with triptych altarpieces. The panels that form a triptych are often attached to one another with hinges, as you see in this particular piece by Giotto that we're looking at. So what happens is that they're attached that allow 2 outer panels to fold in so that these were normally easily carried and moved from place to place. They're usually framed together, as you see here in the Stefanowski triptych, but in modern pieces, often they're simply placed side by side, 3 in a row, not necessarily hinged. So one of the earliest triptychs was the one that we're looking at now, created in Italy by Giotto we don't have the exact year, but his dates were 1267 to 1337. So basically at the beginning of the 14th century, this piece was created. This particular triptych was commissioned by Cardinal Stefanowski, which is where it gets its name from. And it focuses on St. Peter in that middle triptych, and often the middle part of the triptych, the center, told the main point or the main part of the story. And then each side panel had often patrons were included, but also just smaller parts of the story. So in this piece, we see St. Peter in the center. It's his story that's being told here, but there are other saints on the outer wings. And also the center panel includes Stefanowski himself. which was a pattern often used in these times, where the patron of the art piece would be painted into the triptych, either as required by the patron or as a way for the artist to honor the commission. Okay, thank you. Next slide, please. Triptychs became really popular elsewhere in Europe, as we can see with the German painter Hans Memling. His piece, Earthly Vanity and Divine Salvation, was completed in the 1480s, and it consists of a narrative sequence. The central panel tells the first story of vanity, and then followed by death on the left and hell on the right. If you could show me the next slide, please, Beverly. Here we have a more modern triptych. This is by Carol Walker, done in 2017. And modern triptychs often confront social issues, as she does in this piece, Resurrection Story with Patrons, where the focus is on slavery, the Middle Passage, and violence. And as you see here, these side panels use the older traditional markings of the patrons who help support the piece of art. Okay, and now we'd like to talk a little bit about triptych poems, since that's what we're going to have you working on today. So, triptych poems are simply poems constructed in 3 sections. Those 3 sections hinge on many strategies, such as theme, image, or structural approach. For instance, the poem may be divided into 3 sections based on 3 different ages, or 3 different geographical locations, or 3 different voices or perspectives. So we're going to take a quick look at this piece, Summer Triptych by Linda Paston. And as I read it, see if you can think how these 3 pieces function together. What do they hinge on? Summer Triptych. The world is water to these bronzed boys on their surfboards, riding the sexual waves of Maui, like so many fearless cowboys, challenging death on bucking broncos of foam. 2. On the beach at Santorini, we ate those tiny silverfish grilled straight from the sea. And when the sun went down in the flaming west, there was applause from all the sated diners, as if it had been done its acrobatic plunge just for them. 3. Swathed from head to toe in seeming veils of muslin, the figure in the Nantucket fog pulls along the shoreline on a flat barge. It could be Charon transporting souls across the river Styx, or just another fisherman in a hoodie, trolling for bluefish on the outgoing tide. So how do you see the 3 pieces hinged together? What holds them together and at the same time separates them? Please feel free to come off mute and share any ideas.
Well, I see that it's different bodies of water.
Great,
That are
absolutely.
the same, but different places.
Yes, yes, wonderful. Exactly.
The presence of
Nice.
fish.
Yes. The
I think-
fish, the water. Go ahead.
Like a sense of magic or awe between these different experiences.
Oh, interesting. Yes, wonderful insight. Thank you. Oh, I see Michael, held together by season also. Thank you.
I would add on to Michael's held together by season that it's like seasons of life as well, like the sexual waves and then the eating, like this aspect of like vitality, and then here a reference of like transporting souls after death.
Absolutely. Yes. What a great insight and reading on your part. Thank you. Any last comments before we move? Sorry. All right, well, great job, everybody. You really honed in on how these pieces hinge together. Great. Go ahead, Beverly.
So next we're going to look at a piece that has a more visual aspect to it, and that's Triptych by Diana Goyen. And I'd like to ask you the same question. So as we look at these, I'm not going to read them aloud. I just want you thinking about what hinges them together. So this is the first part. I couldn't get all three onto a slide at once, so we're going to look at them separately and I'll come back to each of them again. So this is the first piece. We have this piece and this. So without hearing the poem, what would you say hinges these together? And again, please feel free to come off mute if you'd like.
I see the shape from Leslie in the chat. Yes.
Absolutely. So we notice in the photograph, this shape cut out. And then
Exclusion.
we have this shape here. Sorry, go ahead.
Exclusion.
Yeah, yeah. And we have it cut out of here as well.
Right.
So that's really linking this piece together, that we have this shape that's doing that work. So both visual and if we were to read the poem, we'd see that as well. Yeah, the negative and positive spaces. Thank you, Jay. You will have a copy of these slides at the end of the presentation. So if you want to read this more closely, you'll be able to do that at that point. Next, I want to talk about triptych poems that are based on one image. So this painting is called The Execution of Lady Jane Grey. And I'm going to read a poem that I wrote that appeared in the Ekphrastic Review that I wrote in 3 parts. And this is a persona poem. So this is something that we're going to offer you as a portal in a little while. So I'm going to read that, and I want you to just kind of take in the painting as I'm reading. 1, the lady in waiting. Blindfold me too. How can I watch the brutal end to Jane? It may as well be my end. She's occupied my life for 16 years. I saw her educated, wed, bedded, crowned, killed. Every time he attempts expression in my face, he falls short, whacks the paint away. This sorrow, uncontainable, unknowable, unpaintable. 2, the executioner. Had I seen her before I killed her, I would have brought a sword, fine and sharp, her neck so little under my axe. Pretty girl, reminds me of my sister, without the joys of an average Jane. All that beauty, untested, that fine pedigree, waiting, no time to bear a child. Educated the way the nobles like their women. To what end? To this end, forgiving me, her eyes steady, locked to mine for eternity, even after she ties the fabric around her eyes. As though not seeing the block will blind her to death's final approach. She stumbles, confused, disoriented, my axe filling her mind. It is heavy, crushing, the blow I must make. 3, Lady Jane. History, decide how you feel about me, will you? Was I brilliant or a pawn? Better to say I was brilliant because truth. And a woman, also truth, which meant no choice when my traitorous father did his own bit of scheming with frail cousin Edward. I'd like to sigh out men and know all the ladies in the room recognize my plight. But as long as we're after #truth for once, let's remember it was Bloody Mary. You can tell I'm a lady because I didn't call her Bloody Effin' Mary, who went back on her word most fatally. Betrayed me, her cousin. Read it, young and beautiful, womb so fresh and ripe, and her desperate for her Catholic husband, Catholic country, Catholic killing. I know, I should be grateful. I didn't go screaming against the smell of my own burning flesh and scorched lungs. I should have practiced getting my little neck down on the block. I stumbled. So what I'd like to do now is just sort of put each of those stanzas up and just point out my approach to this. So what I did as I wrote this is isolated the figures. There are more than 3 in here, but I wanted it to be a triptych. And so I decided on which figures were most important to me, and focused on the lady in waiting. So the woman whose face we don't see. I thought that was so interesting that the painter sort of left the face out, you know, like she's just so bereft that she can't even show her face in this. And then, of course, the executioner is so important. And I tried to think about his perspective as I wrote this. And then finally focusing on the center of this piece, Lady Jane, and what she might be thinking in those last moments. All right, so Joyce is going to talk about the Garden of Earthly Delights now.
Okay, thank you, Beverly. So the Garden of Earthly Delights is a triptych created by Hieronymus Bosch in, I believe it was finished in 1510. And so this particular piece tells a narrative story, basically left to right. We read this left to right. The left-hand side being Eden, the small wing. The center wing being literally the Garden of Earthly Delights, where Bosch really focuses on the lust of humanity on earth. And then the right side of the triptych is hell. And so there are different ways that you can read or triptychs and how they're put together. But in this case, it's narratively left to right. Now, the poem we're going to look at that goes with this. Yes, great. Thank you, Beverly. We're not going to read this poem together because it's fairly long and we want to save time for you to write and come up with your own triptychs. But I will say that this is a triptych poem in response to a triptych painting. And so the way the author has separated his poem is by focusing on each single panel. So he starts the poem with Eden, and you see how it says here, the newborn world is all a swirl. And this is where God introduces even Adam. Next slide, the second part of the poem focuses on the Garden of Earthly Delights. And you'll see here, just look at the beginning line here, all nature is distorted now. And so you see a huge difference in the visuals on the panel, and the references in the second part of the poem are much different than what we saw in Eden. Now everything is has, like, just as it says, second line, as frenzy wanton far and wide presides. If you get a chance later to look at the details of this piece, you'll see that it's a lot about literally earthly delights and lust. Thank you, Beverly. Next section is hell, where it literally focuses on the unravaged cities belching smoke, a livid sky with onyx clouds, a lot of despair. So this piece even ends on the word hell, leaving us in that solid spot. So we share this with you as a way that you might respond to a triptych painting by focusing each of your 3 sections on one of the specific panels. Okay, now time for you to write.
So we're going to show you 3 different visual triptychs or paintings. They're not all triptychs. And we're going to read off these portals for you, but you'll also see a link in the chat that goes to a Google Doc with these, the portals right under the painting so that you can have them right in front of you. Okay, so here is our first one, Joyce.
Okay, great. So this particular triptych is called The Aino Myth by Akseli Gallenkela, who was a Finnish painter from Finland. This was in 1891. So if you decide you might like to write about this particular triptych, we have three options for you, three portals. The first is you could tell a story of your life in 3 sections about a time when you wanted to get away from or out of a situation. And it might be interesting to tell it backwards. Your first section could be the ending, your second section, the middle, and the third section, the beginning. I think you'll find something really surprising happens if you do it in that order. A second portal to this triptych is that you could give voice to 3 different characters from the triptych. So you might choose the girl, the old man, and maybe the fish in the middle section, or you could speak from the voice of the boulder the girl is sitting on in the right hand panel, but giving voice to 3 particular characters that you see here. Thirdly, you might focus on 3 elements. For instance, air, earth, water. And through these 3 lenses, you could write a triptych piece based on what you see in the painting, or feel free to draw from your own life. Okay, thank you, Beverly.
Okay, so we just thought the Garden of Earthly Delights was so rich that we're bringing it back for you as a portal. So you could follow Jeffrey Essman's triptych formula, and there is a link to the poem if you want to look at that more closely, by writing in response to each panel. So the Eden panel, the Garden of Earthly Delights panel, and the Hell panel. You could also focus on 3 separate objects or people in the triptych and write in their voices. So here are some examples, because gosh, this painting is full of things to look at, right? So an example, in the panel of Eden, you could focus in on the image of Adam, God, and Eve, and write a piece in which you convey what each of them is saying or thinking. Or from the center panel, you could focus on the section with 3 men eating fruit, strawberry, cherry, invented fruit, and give voice to each of their pleasures. Or there's a burning city in the Hell panel. So you could write a triptych that focuses on 3 cities in history that have experienced major conflict. Or you could let your triptych poem response focus on concepts like body, mind, spirit, or smell, taste, touch. And then third, you could choose one panel of the triptych painting and really zoom in on one section and tell the story you see there. So for example, at the very bottom right-hand corner of the Hell panel, you'll see 2 human figures and a creature. So you could write a piece from each of their viewpoints.
Okay, and then our third option for portal writing is this particular self-portrait on the borderline between Mexico and the United States by Frida Kahlo, done in 1932. So if you'd like to write about this piece, our ideas were that you could write about a time when you felt caught between 2 different geographical locations. Your triptych might be sectioned in as place 1, geographical place 1, geographical place 2, and then the self that's in between these 2 places, these 2 geographical locations. Secondly, you could make a list of different sets of 3 that you see in the painting. So for instance, I see sun, moon, and lightning as a threesome that I might write about, or earth, sky, and roots. So if you want to choose this option, then you could choose a set of 3 and let those 3 images create the foundation for your triptych. So I might choose sun as 1, lightning as part 2, and moon as part 3. Lastly, you might take the Frida out of the painting. And if you know anything about Frida's life, you could write a persona triptych in her voice from 3 different ages of her life. So she dealt with a horrible accident when she was 19. So you might write about her life before her accident, the life after her accident when she had a steel rod in her spine, and then maybe write just about before she died. When she died, she was confined to bed. So you could write a piece from 3 different time periods of her life, or you can always write from your life. And please remember, this is just practice. Try not to spend too much time coming up with the perfect writing prompt. We would just suggest the one that speaks to you most and go from there.
So what we're going to do is we're going to give you 3 sets of time. So we're going to do 7 minutes. So you'll have 7 minutes. And what we suggest is that you write about the first part of your triptych for those 7 minutes, then write the second part of your triptych, and then write the final part of your triptych. So we'll keep track of time so you don't have to. And if you are not muted and you want to mute while you write, that is perfectly fine. But I'll be giving you a little heads up on the time and say, okay, that's 7 minutes, time to move on to part 2 of your triptych. So if there are any questions, you can pop them in the chat and we'll try to help you out from there. But we hope that you find these fruitful for you. So let me just get my timer going. And let's begin our first panel, if you will, of our triptych. So 7 minutes for your first piece.
Have fun as you're doing this. You can't do it wrong.
Get yourself to a good stopping place. And if you need to write a note or two so that when you come back to this part of your triptych, you remember where you were going, you can take the time to do that. And we'll start the second one in just one moment. All right, go ahead and start the second part of your triptych. Go ahead and get yourself to a good stopping place. And go ahead and start the third part of your triptych. So let's take about 1 minute to get yourself to a good stopping place and make any notes that you need to continue this after the workshop.
Okay, thank you everybody for participating. We see a lot of heads down and working on your writing. We'd love to hear from a few people if anyone would like to share. I think if you use your raised hand, that would be the best way for us to call on you, and feel free to share one section, all 3 sections, whatever you're comfortable with. Do we have any volunteer? Oh, I see. Nemo Sum. Would you please come off mute and share with us what you've written?
Yeah, thank you. This has been a lot of fun.
Oh,
Thank
good.
you. Okay. I guess I got a little meta and didn't do a specific painting, but more painting and colors in general. But
Great.
okay.
Yeah.
Red, not properly proportioned for flight. The heralds of hopelessness beat their great wings to stay aloft in a sky choked with red and black. Green, the pain persists. I'm sorry, the rain persists. Drops from leaves become streams into rivers. Gray covers green, covers brown, while the clear water washes it all away. Blue, the air crackles with invisible bolts. In the distance, towering white thunderheads encroach on a blue sky. Thank you.
Whoa. Wonderful. Thank you so much. What a great way to set up to hinge your triptych on colors. I love the heralds of hopelessness and how the rain persists and the air crackling. Really wonderful images. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
I want to just celebrate the sound work in that. There's some really gorgeous sound work in it, like leaves, streams, rivers, you know, they're just so I love that it's not only got the color going on, but the sound work is really there. Thanks for sharing that.
Oh, thank you so much.
Yes, that's wonderful. I thought I saw another hand, which I don't see now. Is there anyone else who would like to share?
I think Sharon had
Oh, thank you. Sharon.
Okay, this is that first triptych. I didn't get the name of it though.
Oh, was that the Erno triptych?
Yeah, I'd like to know the name. Anyway, what I called it was The Oppression of the Fathers. It took a century to escape the patriarchy, to disrobe, unwind the binding vesture of restraint, the shoulds, the musts, the legacy that turns me to a category. I fumble at the uniform assigned, test the strength of fabric, furtive explorations and the options of escape, but always the shadow of his presence, his remonstrance appears like a weight. And then the middle panel was, I'm half drowning in the sea of change, naked against the unfamiliar currents, at the mercy of the tide. He is there still, coming to the rescue, that effigy of safety, slipping back into my accepted place. Fear is the unseen protagonist. To its sword, the torment of indecision, but hope, the unseen helper, beckons me. And the third one, white and shaking like a shorn sheep, I am the remains of what I was, the embryo of what I will become, a neophyte in a world imagined, only a dream, a parable of hope resolving into fact.
Nicely done. Oh my gosh, like that gave me goosebumps. The oppression of the fathers, the restraint, the shoulds, the musts.
It's kind of a parable of women in the 21st century.
It is.
Yeah.
And you did such a beautiful job with your imagery. Thank you so much.
Yeah, Sharon, thank you for sharing that. I loved the effigy of safety. Fear is the unseen protagonist, and then hope is unseen as well. So thank you so much. We've got about 3 minutes left, so let's see if we can get one, maybe two more shares.
Okay, great. I don't know who came first. I'm sorry, but I see Shaki G. Would you like to unmute and read?
Yeah, I can.
Okay, thank you.
It's really short, so maybe we get everybody in. I did the one with hell at the end.
Yes.
In the end, there was sorrow and regret, thoughts of what we could have done differently. Our loved ones scattered among the ashes, and no one left to save us. In the beginning, there was hope and opportunity, a bright, beautiful canvas, a field ready for the plow, saplings dancing in the breeze to the songs of freedom. Now, there is only selfishness and greed, chasing capital like shots of whiskey, drunk on ego, the burning in our chests, longing for a savior, while the mind names itself a deity, praying only to itself.
Whoa, thank you. Oh, that's so wonderful. The sorrow and the regret, and just again, beautiful imagery and sounds in your piece. Thank you for sharing with us.
I loved that you went end, beginning, now. That just did something really magical for my hearing of it. Thank you so much.
Wonderful. Pam, would you like to read? Pam Rice?
Yes, thank you. I also did the Garden of Earthly Delights, but I chose innocence, mania, and depression as my three pieces. Young and innocent, carefree and awed, the world is my oyster, and I am ready to explore. Looking within, I find an eagerness to experience life, love, and laughter. 2, I step out of myself and into living. I strain to squeeze every drop of delight from all that I do, racing from gluttony to promiscuity to danger. Mania consumes me. 3, what goes up must come down. I free fall to the depths of my despair. What good was found is lost. I cannot find my way. I retreat. I withdraw. I give up.
Oh, wow. That is such a journey. The eagerness and the love of life into the stepping out of myself and into danger, and then to your last piece that really settles on a heavy moment. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. It really, I think each of the parts of your triptych build on each other in a really important way. So thank you.
We'd love to hear more, but I think we have to turn this over again to our leaders here, to MP and Danielle. But we want to say thank you so much for joining us. We're so excited that you were here today.
Thank you all so much. And a huge thanks to Joyce and Beverly for this wonderful workshop. We are posting links to find out more about the poets in the chat. Please follow them on social media and support their work and buy their books. Can we get a round of appreciation for our poets?
Oh, thank you. Thank you.